Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul. Hopefully you're having an amazing day. I want to kick this video off with discussion of the Radeon RX 5900 XT. This one is rather interesting, at least in my personal opinion, as a leaked engineering sample of the 5900 XT has actually popped up on Chip Hell. So let's have a look at the backstory of this card first. It was originally actually procured from an online marketplace where the forum member actually paid about 540 US dollars, which is ironically a really good price, as you'll see from the performance in just a moment. This card actually appears to be essentially an RX 6800 XT, but AMD seemed to have originally been intending to call this card the 5900 XT. So if we look at the basic design, and yeah, you can see that it looks pretty darn similar to ASRock's cards that we've actually seen released with the RX 6000 series, albeit the front shroud is missing, but the actual cooler, of course, as well as the fan, the triple fan design, that is present. There's also a sticker which reads RX 5900 XT PGD 16G0, and that means that the GPU is indeed an RX 5900 XT, and it is a Phantom Gaming D 16GB variant, and it is overclocked. So again, for 540 US dollars, what did this individual actually get? Well, they seem to have gotten an RX 6800 XT. So when they actually tried to use this card originally, it wouldn't work. The drivers were just not recognizing the GPU. And this is, of course, because when you're trying to install a driver for a product, the driver checks to make sure that it understands what hardware you have, it identifies that hardware, and then does the stuff in the background. In this case, though, it was like, yeah, I don't recognize you. So the forum member did a pretty smart thing. They basically flashed the BIOS. Just for your FYI, when I did a Chinese to English translation, it's saying that the name is Enthusiastic Citizen, but I have no idea whether this is even remotely accurate in terms of translation. So I'm just going to continue to say the forum member just in case I'm not being insulting there with the name. Anyway, continuing on. So after the flash occurred, well, yeah, they then tested the GPU, and I think it's fair to say that it's pretty much identical in performance to an actual RX 6800 XT Taichi motherboard. I mean, within the margin of error here, which actually leads us to some interesting questions. So one theory I'm seeing posted is that this is RDNA 1 with 80 compute units, and no, I'm pretty darn sure, simply because of even the fact that it was BIOS flashed and didn't just completely and utterly fall over and die, not to mention the fact that we're actually seeing the GPU core here, I'm fairly sure that this is RDNA 2 based, and it's obviously an engineering sample. Now, I heard pretty early on, this is back when I was posting all of the RDNA2 leaks, so obviously that was, kind of October, November time, that AMD had no plans to call the GPU the RX 5000 series. In fact, by this point, they had more than settled on the name of the RX 6000 series, so it's very probable that this kind of engineering sample actually predates all of that. Now, again, this is assuming that this is legitimate. For all I know, it is fake, but I'm going to say with the sheer number of images that we're seeing here, plus as well the pretty extensive testing, that it is actually a legitimate GPU. And personally, I just absolutely love this. It's not unique in terms of the performance. I would have loved it for it to have been like a long lost, RX 490, because we know, for example, that those GPUs actually were produced. We know that they did exist, but then they just scrapped them, and then of course they never actually did come to the market. Instead, AMD focused on Vega, so the RX 480, which was of course what Polaris debuted with. Yeah, it went Polaris and then it went Vega, so Polaris tapped out with 36 CU, so I'd have loved for us to have seen an engineering sample RX 490 just to see what the actual GPU would have been capable of, as we actually did some extensive coverage of this card back in the day when we saw some leaks of it even in like Ashes of the Singularity benchmark and that type of thing. So I personally love to see what would have actually happened. It basically seems that AMD would have just lumped RDNA 1 and RDNA 2 into the same product range. And I think that from a marketing perspective, this makes way more sense. Obviously, as well, AMD will also be filling out other cards in their lineup with, for example, the 6700 series and below. So yeah, I just find this absolutely fascinating from that perspective. I think it's really cool. It's also worthy of note that the same poster was testing, believe it or not, with a Rocket Lake S CPU, an engineering sample I grant you, and they even provided a photo of the CPU. And they also were testing this on an ASRock Z590 Pro 4 motherboard. So he's essentially testing 3 unreleased products here, which is pretty damn brilliant, at least in my opinion. So CES is in just a couple of days, and Nvidia are doing the hinting thing, as they have actually put out a tweet. It was accompanied with about 9 seconds of video. It's definitely a blink and you'll miss it. But there are 4 very interesting images that we can see during the video. And yeah, you can see them on screen yourself. Now, I think the most obvious takeaway here from 2 of the images, the first one anyway, is a laptop. So I don't think that Nvidia are going to be showing us refrigerators at CES. Obviously, they will be showing the mobile RTX 30 cards, or rather products rather than cards. And I'm actually quite excited to see what Nvidia will be bringing to the mobile market. I think that it could be, ironically, one of the ways that PC gamers anyway choose to game because of the shortages of GPUs at the moment. Like, I was just having a look out of curiosity's sake on eBay and a couple of other marketplaces, and the prices of cards at the moment, as I'm sure most of you know, is absolutely astronomical. The RTX 3080 is going from basically your kidney to your kidney plus your spleen and your heart, and probably a couple of lungs as well. In other words, it's like about $1,100 to just a staggering $1,500. And the RTX 3070 is a bargain, he says, with dripping sarcasm, at around $800 to $900. In the UK anyway, doing a bit of due diligence, I also noticed that there were some retailers that were basically allocating certain amount of stock for pre-builts, and one retailer that was doing this is Overclockers UK. So for example, you can pick up, at least as of the time I'm recording this video, so if it's not in stock in a few minutes, then, well, yeah, it is what it is. But you can actually pick up an RTX 3070 gigabyte GPU with an, it looks like a Ryzen 9 5900X, of course. I just to be clear, I don't have any affiliation with OC UK. It was just one of the retails I checked. And you are also paying quite a bit of a premium, but that system going to cost you around £2,100, not US dollars. But anyway, getting back to what I was saying just a moment ago, gosh darn it. Yeah, the second image, which I find interesting, is, well, also mobile focused, but you can see the green images flowing into the Nvidia chip, and you can also see the blue, which I don't know if that's hinting that Nvidia are kind of showing Smart Bar running on an Intel CPU. We recently tested on the channel, actually, an RX 6800 XT running on a Intel 10900K with resizable bar, and so I'll try to remember to link that in the video description. But yeah, this is definitely a tease. I mean, it's possible that I'm totally wrong and it's not resizable bar and it's just a nice looking image of a laptop. But yeah, I mean, personally, I'm probably going to guess it's resizable bar. We can also see that there's 8 memory modules there, which probably does indicate that we're looking at 8 gigabytes or 16 gigabytes of memories. Apparently, the RTX 3080 for the mobile anyway does go up to 16 gigs. And again, it's very similar, as I've discussed many times now, at least if the leaks are right, to the RTX 3070 desktop, albeit with a few additional CUDA cores, but with a lower clock frequency. There's also an image of a game. I don't really think I need to say much more than there's probably going to be more titles announced which support DLSS and ray tracing from Nvidia, because obviously they're really pushing that at the moment for all of the reasons that, of course, are well known. And there's also an image of what looks to me like a GPU. It is possible that it's just the branding of the actual laptop, but my guess is that it's actually for the GPUs. Now, I don't think that this is for the 3080 Ti or whatever it ends up being called. I think that it's for the 3060. And I heard through the grapevine, I have to be careful how I word that one, that the 3060 is being released first. And then the 3080 is coming later, the 3080 Ti. But as I covered in a video yesterday, there's some really weird stuff that's going on with the 3080 Ti. I've been hearing that it's going to be a different memory configuration to what we heard, and possibly different numbers of CUDA cores. At the moment, I honestly don't think anyone knows. I think that if this was like Marvel Comics, the one above all, they would not actually know what the hell Nvidia were thinking at this point. That would be that simple. They'd be like, no, I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on. I can't read this feature. Don't understand. I'm out. I'm tapped. But yeah, I'm interested to see what Nvidia do show off here. CES is going to be absolutely amazing because obviously there's going to be a ton of announcements from AMD, Nvidia, Intel, and so on. So I'm pretty hyped. And since we're talking about laptops, I'll also talk about an article from Notebook Check, as MSI have kind of done an oopsie daisy, and they've actually seen a leak for one of their laptops. And yeah, it seems like it's definitely an MSI laptop. According to Notebook Check, it's an MSI GE76, and it does actually feature an RTX 3080 GPU. There's not a whole bunch for me to say on this one, other than it does seem to feature as well an Intel Comet Lake processor. So probably this is the 10980HK, and again, it can go up to an RTX 3080. That's a lot of power. I mean, this kind of, I know, wheeling back just for a second what I was mentioning a moment ago, that's kind of nuts in terms of a desktop form factor. I would prefer for us to have seen that with a Zen 3 based CPU, or an 11th generation Intel in the future, but it is what it is. There's still more than enough power there for gaming. I do wonder how many people will start to get into laptop gaming. Personally, it's not my jam, I'm not going to lie to you, but I wouldn't be surprised if it does become more popular. And furthermore, it's actually with a 17.3-inch screen, which is certainly pretty damn big for a laptop. Right, I think that's just about it for this particular video. Hopefully you have enjoyed it. The normal stuff, if you did, like, share, comment, of course, and subscribe to the channel if you are not already. And I'll see you soon. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.